Hello, everybody. Thanks for clicking in and joining us today at Homes New York with Andrew and Stephen. I'm Stephen Love.
And I'm Andrew Weiner.
And today we have a very special guest, our banker, Jacob Letowsky from
What everyone? How you guys doing today?
Cross Country Mortgage.
Thank you for having me, Steve, Andrew. Appreciate it.
It's
Sure.
great to have you. And so here we are. We're in the May of 2025. We've been suffering through a long period of high interest rates that have, in certain ways, negatively impacted the market. We've got a lot of potential buyers out there who may be sitting on the sidelines, and I think Jacob can give us a lot of insights in terms of counseling our buyers or potential buyers about why any time is a good time to buy real estate. What do you think, Jacob?
I totally agree, Steve. Uh, Anytime is the right time to buy. It really has to do with, is it the right time for you? And how do you tell what's the right time for you? I think that's a question that people are maybe afraid to face, right? Because it means that you have to do some work, you have to run some math, and you have to kind of take account of your spending personally on a monthly or annual basis. And what I mean by that is if you know how much money you're spending every month and you know how much money you're bringing in every month, we can figure out what a comfortable monthly payment might be for you. It could be $2,000 a month, it could be $5,000 a month. And if you know what that comfortable payment is, then we can run the math and see what is the right loan size for you, right? Now, in this challenging market that we're having, it always presents opportunity. Okay. And there's opportunity for people whose monthly payments are $2,000 a month. Okay. That $2,000 a month payment, though, may not get you, that classic six on Park Avenue that you've been dreaming about with the long hallway and the formal dining room and the kitchen and the den and the library, right? You might have to buy your first one to get your next one to get the last one. I'm sitting in the house that I bought because I bought a condo in 2005. I bought a co-op in 2012 or so, and then I bought this home in 2020. And it was only because of those two smaller purchases that I was actually able to wind up in this home today.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a saying in real estate that you just want to get into the market. The advantage of buying is first the possibility of price appreciation, and the second is part of your payments are going to pay off the debt. So you're building up equity. So that's the way when you sell your property and you want to upgrade, you have something to show for it. I totally agree. And Andrew, there was one thing that's kind of hanging out there and could change really dramatically for us this year is that not only do you get to, the kind of the forced savings in principal curtailment or paying down principal that every month, you get appreciation, which has happened over the last 80 years. I think there's only been 3 or 4 years where prices or home value has actually decreased in 80 years. But the third piece of the puzzle is SALT. And I'm not talking about on your steak. I'm talking about state and local tax deduction, right? About, I think it's like 6 or 7 years ago, the SALT deduction was limited or capped to $10,000. There's a lot of talk, and in this new budget, there is an attempt to increase the limit, whether it be $30,000 or $40,000. That's going to be super meaningful, especially in New York, where we are a high tax state. Certainly up in Westchester, where I live, I am praying that we get some SALT relief. But also in Manhattan, whether you're buying a co-op or a condo, you are still paying property tax. And if the SALT changes, you're going to get a greater deduction than you have today. And if you're renting, you are not getting any property tax deductions on your income.
What do you have to say to people, Jacob, who, obviously one of the biggest hurdles for many people is coming up with down payment.
Mhm.
Um, are there any options, would you say, to leverage yourself into a new home, if you not perhaps have enough cash on hand?
Absolutely.
I think there's a common misunderstanding in the marketplace that you need to put 20% down. You do not need to put 20% down. Bank guidelines would allow you to finance as much as 95 to even 97% of your property value, of your purchase price. I closed the loan yesterday, 95% financing. Okay. That is a real thing. Now, that client bought a one-family home in New York City. As you know, Steve, Andrew, co-ops, there are some that will allow you to finance up to 90%. And condos, depending on the seller, you can negotiate maybe up to 95% financing. Okay. Now, is there money out there available for you to help with down payment assistance? Certainly. Okay. But nothing is free in this world, right? There are state-run programs, there are city-run programs. If it's free, I would just say be prepared to take maybe a pound of flesh for the free money, right? Nothing's easy. If you're dealing with New York City or New York State, you're dealing with a bureaucracy, which means time, which means frustration. But if you're prepared for that extra time and frustration up front, it may not hurt as much. But there are definitely programs available out there for down payment assistance. There are also, it gets very commonly overlooked, you can access, if you're an employee and you have a 401k, you can access your 401k funds without penalty, consult your advisor, but without penalty through a 401k loan. The house I live in today, I took a 401k loan to help with part of my down payment and closing costs. And the term of the loan is 15 years. But the best part, every single payment I make goes back into my 401k. It's not going to some unknown party that's collecting my interest. So there are ways to access down payment funds combined with lower down payment requirements by the bank.
And in terms of closing costs as well, with if we can do the SEMA maneuver, right? If someone the seller has an assumable mortgage, we can reduce the amount of the mortgage recording tax.
So there's two different pieces, Steve. Number one, mortgage tax, which is what you're referring to, is only on condo 1 to 4 family homes in the 5 boroughs and New York State. Okay. Assumable mortgages really are not a thing. Assumable mortgage tax, absolutely. Okay. So what can happen is if you're buying a condo with a $500,000 mortgage already on the property today, currently balances $500,000, give or take the mortgage tax paid on that $500,000 loan is just about $10,000, a little bit less. If you're buying and you're taking a mortgage of $500,000 or more, the seller could transfer that $10,000 to you without a cost to the seller. And that can help reduce your closing costs as a buyer. So that is absolutely possible. It would require that the current loan allows for the assignment, meaning that the bank that your seller has would allow them to transfer the mortgage tax from their loan to your new loan. Now, here's the nice part. If you're a seller and you have a condo or a 1 to 4 family home, you can start this process without a buyer. So you can get all set up and take all the timing factor out upfront before you find your buyer. And it's something that Steve and Andrew can offer to the buyers or the potential buyers, which your neighbors may not be doing. So that way your property has that much more value built in without you lowering your price.
Excellent. What do you see in the near term, Jacob? Do you see, aside you've already discussed the possibility of raising the SALT limit. Do you see rates coming down anytime soon?
When I'm hugging my pillow and I'm sleeping at night, I dream of 5%, 4%. That's my dream. But in reality, Fannie and Freddie just gave their interest rate projection, and they're seeing rates in the low sixes by the end of the year, which would be outstanding, right? Right now, we're in the mid to high sixes, again, depending on your credit score, down payment, loan amount, all of these things, right? It's not a specific rate quote. If you have questions about your specific rate, I'm always here for you. But with regard to rates, I believe that they will trend down by the end of the year. But that should not put anybody on the sidelines waiting for those rates, because refinancing does not cost a lot. Your first mortgage is not your last mortgage, and you can always refinance. You're not stuck in the interest rate. What you are stuck with is your purchase price. So if rates drop to 6%, 5.75, everybody comes off and floods the market, you're going to start seeing higher prices, right? You're not going to get the value you're going to get today. And even though your rate, you may not need to refinance, you can never change your sale price. So it's really a matter of, the strategy that you want to work through. I personally believe you get a better sale price, you can always refinance your interest rate.
Right. That's what I'm telling buyers coming into my listings. You get a really good entry point now. And, despite the fact that prices have been kind of pushed down, they're going to go back up again. So you're coming in at a good purchase price.
Yeah.
Andy, do you have any questions for Jacob?
No, just to reiterate that in times of uncertainty like this has usually been a good buying opportunity. If you look at any period of uncertainty, like the year after the financial crisis or during COVID, that's when prices were the lowest. And like Jacob said, you can't go back in time and buy it for the lower price, but you can always refinance. Um, I guess I would ask Jacob, inventory is lower now than it's been, as sellers have to deal with potentially higher interest rates if they want to sell their property and buy another. What are your feelings on that, and how should potential buyers deal with that?
So it's a good question. Um, I think there's always an opportunity to be had, right? So you as a buyer, right? If we're talking to buyers, as a buyer, you could look to not just buy the perfect ideal property that you want, right? We have a renovation loan, not to pitch anything, but like as a renovation loan, you might go see a property that is really not your ideal, right? And you don't want to necessarily go through all the motions of construction and all this nonsense. But if your goal is to buy, you got to find a way or make a way. And if you're not going to be able to find a way with a seller who's ready to sell, then you can make a way, right? Because there are properties on the market that are not in their best condition, right? Or selling for less than what they could sell for, right? You take a renovation loan, you acquire, you make all of the necessary changes to your property, and then you have this beautiful home. You built equity into your property, and we financed based on the acquisition price and the cost to construct. So you're getting a very solid amount of financing and really helping you to do the work, right? So that's a strategy for a buyer. Also, as a buyer, you might have to compromise. You might want to live on, Park Avenue and, 87th Street. That might be where you want to live. But in reality, all those sellers aren't selling. So you might have to change location. You might have to change from a condo to co-op. You might have to go into Brooklyn. I don't know. You might have to go into Harlem or the Upper West Side, or you might have to go to the Bronx. Who knows, right? But if your goal is to buy and own and take part of the appreciation that's occurring year after year, then you got to make a way, right? Make a way is you compromise location, you compromise property type, you compromise property size, right? You may not get that gold toilet that you always dreamed of. You might have to wait for the next property, right? You get one to get the next.
Makes
Great.
sense.
We've got out of time now, but Jacob, thanks for joining us. And it always remains the case that getting yourself into real estate is the best way for most people to build wealth. And we're all here, and we consider Jacob to be part of our team, and we're here to help you figure these things out. So till next time, we'll see you out there in the world of real estate.
Thank you guys. Appreciate you having me. Have a great day, everyone.
You too. Thanks a lot.
Bye bye.